Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Vijay and this is 10th video in my Python series. In this video, we'll explore what none is and we'll examine various scenarios when it is returned and we'll discuss its usefulness in Python. So let's get started. So before we dive into examples, let's understand what none data type is. Okay, so in Python, none represents the absence of a value. So it is used when a variable does not have a value assigned or when a function does not explicitly return anything. So think of it as a placeholder for an empty or missing values. Okay, so when you want to create a variable where you do not want to assign any specific values, then you can assign none to it. Okay, so now let's explore some common example of how none is used in Python. So let's jump into our REPL and try to see some examples there. So now we are in our REPL and you can see that in first example I am assigning none to this variable. Okay, so it indicates that the value is missing for this particular variable, or I can say I'm not assigning any specific value to this variable at this moment. Okay, then in next example, okay, let me run this one first and let's print this out as well. Okay, so here definitely it will show you none here. Okay, now in the next example, uh, you can see that I have this function greet user and I'm passing that user to that function and I'm printing that out. Okay, I'm printing hello and that username. Okay, so if you see this function, I'm not returning anything explicitly, correct? So in this case also it will return none. Okay, so if we are not returning anything from a function, then by default it returns none. Okay, so you can see that I am running that function and I am assigning that value that is returned from this function, so that would be none in this case, to this result variable. Okay, so let's run this one. Okay, so you can see here the none is being returned from this function, correct? So if we are not returning anything, then by default a function returns none value, correct? And also we can use none in a case where suppose you want to handle some default value. Okay, so here you can see that I have this dictionary. Okay, and what I'm doing is I'm getting a value for this particular key. Okay, so this key, if you see here, it is not available in my dictionary. Okay, so what happens, since it is not available in a dictionary, so it will return none. Okay, so if some key is not present in a dictionary, in those case it returns none. Okay, so none will be coming in my this variable, so that I am checking if my email is none or not. Okay, so is a keyword in Python that checks the reference. Okay, so I'm checking whether this email is none or not. Okay, if that is the case, then I'm assigning some default value. Okay, so this is how we handle default cases as well. Okay, so let's run this one. Okay, so if you see here, email key was not present, I have got none here, that I'm checking here if that is none or not, and then I am assigning some default values. Okay, that is why this default value is printed out here, not provided. Okay, and then in the next example, if you see here, sometime there is a need to pass none value specifically as a default value to a function. So if you see this example, here I'm passing, suppose this is my function. Okay, and this is the notation, like how we can define a default value to a variable. Okay, so in this variable I'm passing this default value. Okay, so if name is not, if you're not passing name to a particular function here, if you're not passing name here, then it is going to be a default that is none. Okay, so this is how we pass a default value in function. Okay, I'll cover function in more detail in upcoming videos, but for this example, this is how you can see that this is how we pass a default value. Okay, so here I'm not passing any names. Okay, so in that case it will be a none. Okay, so I'm checking that if that name is none or not using is keyword. Okay, if that is a none, then I'm printing this particular string. Okay, and if I'm passing any specific value to a function, then that particular value will be coming in this name variable. Okay, and in that case that will be printed out. Okay, so this is how we handle a default uh, function argument case. Okay, so let's run this one. Okay, so you can see that in first one I'm not passing anything. In that case it is going to be as a none value, and in that case it is printing this particular string. Okay, and in other case it is printing hello and that particular name that we are passing into a function. Okay, and sometime we can also like explicitly return a none from a function. So this is how we return it. Okay, so return then space and then none keyword. Okay, so it will return none from this particular function. Okay, so let's run this one. Okay, so you can see that it is returning none. Okay, and none can also be very useful when you want to clean up, you want to do some cleanup activity. Okay, so in this case this is just a small piece of code. So what I'm doing is I'm importing this particular library. Okay, and then I'm making a connection to a database. Okay, SQLite 3. Okay, and if the connection will be established, and initially here if you see I have defined none to this DB connection. Okay, but if you are going to run this particular line, then this DB connection will hold some value or will hold some connection string, correct? So and after that you are going to perform your DB operations that you want to do. Okay, and then finally, so this is how we write try and finally. So we'll discuss this in more detail. Okay, what will happen after you perform on your operation, you want to clean up the connection or you want to break that connection from your database. Okay, so that is what we are doing in finally block. Okay, so here you will get some connection string from your database, you are doing your operation, but in finally block I'm checking that if that DB connection is not none. Okay, it means that it still has some reference to the database. So if that is the case, I need to close that out. Okay, so this is how you handle some cleanup activity as well in your program. Okay, so this is all I wanted to discuss in this short video. I hope you got a better idea what none is, how to use it, in what all scenarios we can get a none a data type. Okay, so none has its own significance. Okay, so you can try this example, and if you have any doubt you can reach out to me. So that is what I wanted to discuss in this video, guys. If you have any doubt you can put your doubt in the comment section. Okay, so let's meet in another video.